the coffee day.
So, first I'd like to thank Adrien, Charles and Jelena for joining me on the stage today for the panel. And as a non-technical person, it's nice to see the views from people on the technical side of things, which led to the panel today being called Does Cosmos Have an Identity Problem? So what I wanted to start with the first question is, how do you see Cosmos, how is Cosmos being perceived from an outside perspective?
Okay, before we get started, I actually want to hear from the crowd. Who here thinks Cosmos has an identity problem? Raise your hand. So, that's a bad thing. So, we think that's a bad thing. Okay, and who here thinks there's no identity problem? We've figured it out. We know what we're all about. One person, okay. All right, so just to set the stage, I think a lot of people are going to be expecting us to talk about the fact that we have an identity problem. So, sorry, what was the question again?
The question was, how is Cosmos being perceived from outside the ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, I'll begin. I definitely resonate with the crowd that just raised their hands to say that Cosmos has an identity problem. I think we're looking at ourselves in comparison to other ecosystems, Ethereum, Polkadot, Solana, Avalanche. And it's definitely very chaotic and very sort of divisive, right? We have this, thesis of the Internet of Blockchains of sovereignty, and I think with that comes a lot of, identity crises. But I'm curious what my panelists have to say.
I can go next. So, okay, probably I think like the thing we kind of like missed is just because when you go like outside, it's like people like walking and they're kind of like maxi about like Ethereum mostly or Bitcoin mostly. So they will probably work on something really different than the framework that Cosmos have. Cosmos is all about like interoperability, as you say. And the thing is, we have this question about identity because there is like a lot of chain. There is like no CEO. There was one before like for Cosmos, but RIP. So I guess like now we don't have like anyone that just like lead the thing. There is like many people that you will know, like Jelena, Charles. You will have I don't know, like Zaki, Jack, Jay. So many people like from the outside. I guess like people are just wondering like, who the fuck just like lead this? So yeah, I guess probably this is like the problem that we start to have. And there is a good project like DIDX here that can probably have this thing like, I don't want to say like I'm building on Cosmos, but I use the Cosmos SDK.
Yeah.
I think there is an analogy I want to take is maybe Cosmos is in the early days of his journey and is probably entering some kind of teenager crisis. And whenever you're parents and you have a teenager, you know it's complicated, you have a lot of question marks, but eventually you stay optimistic and you know that you're going to go through this, right? So another analogy which comes to mind, also coming more from the Ethereum side of things and kind of entering into the Cosmos space is I see the Cosmos ecosystem as maybe like a city. Maybe let's take the example of Paris, since we are in Paris today. Thinking of everyone can come to the city has some very great infrastructure, and then you will have different districts within the city. In France, we call them arrondissements, so maybe some district will be more towards maybe manufacturing, some other district will be more like entertainment, restaurants, and eventually this identity kind of iterate itself and give like a sense of identity for the member. So everyone come with your own identity, his own identity within the city, and eventually you get also like a shared identity. And this process takes time. I'm natural optimistic. I'm very optimistic in the industry overall. And when I see this kind of setup where we've got a lot of infrastructure, a lot of different live journeys, people come within the space for different things. People have an infrastructure play. Some others are thinking of applications, gaming, DeFi, you name them. I think this kind of patchwork usually works very, very, very well, and we've seen some cities in the world which are really inspiring. I'm thinking of New York, I'm thinking of Paris, I'm thinking of London, I'm thinking of many other Asian cities as well. And keeping this kind of inspiration and being good citizens and kind of ambassadors of our ecosystem will help solving the identity.
Yeah, I mean, I love that analogy of a city. Another one I really resonate with is this idea of a bazaar. You know, you have this marketplace of, of vendors and sellers that are all creating these products, and almost anybody can set up a stall at this bazaar. There's no ticket to entry, really. There's no high cost. And so everyone really, I think, from that perspective, is kind of welcome to set up their own shop and kind of do trade and conduct business with other people and other businesses in this bazaar. And I think that very low barrier to entry is actually very empowering as well. So it's a very self-organizing, self-organizing system of different actors and different people.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think, like you say, it's important that users and the community and people like that can see from your side of from your point of view and everything. So what I will do is go on to question 2. We'll go straight on with it. We'll get straight on with it.
No worries.
So the next question I want to ask is, what attracts builders to come and build in Cosmos?
Okay, I can take it. So I think the real thing that we are good at, probably not the identity part, but we do have like a big framework, like the Cosmos SDK, let's say it. It's literally like something that everyone can use and everyone is building on the same. Probably if you go like somewhere else, you will have like some problem with, because you will need like to create like custom things to just like differentiate yourself. It's gonna be hard to just move forward with the others, because as it's custom, it creates a lot of problems. In the Cosmos SDK, everything is like interoperable, using the same. There is like different versions, but actually they are compatible, so it's pretty okay. So I guess like this is like the thing that interests them, because you have like the whole set that is like kind of like Lego. So you just like take the little one you want and you build your castle. When you have your castle, you can modify it and just like build on top of it. And it's just like pretty easy. Like you can see like there is like Noble that build like an emission chain for like any token, like assets. So yeah, you can even like make just a trading one, for perp or whatever. You can literally build like anything. It works because it's flexible, and I guess like on the other ecosystem, it's less flexible, so more complex, I guess, to build like very fast.
I think there is also a trust component. Even though we are all building trustless technologies, the trust of users or trust of developers needs to anchor somewhere, and that's also a little bit of a paradigm in our space. And Cosmos has been out for a long time. The developers are respected. Coming from Ethereum, you've got like a great reputation also as a Cosmos developer. You've got the SDK, which is also in place and kind of battle tested. So this trust aspect is also something which is also a great asset and part of the kind of branding assets for the Cosmos ecosystem overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think we maybe don't do a good enough job of emphasizing how easy, well, to Adrien's point, it is to build with something like the SDK. You have obviously all of these modules that have been, battle tested, that have been well adopted by, 50 other projects. If it's something like the bank module, or even something newer like the token factory module, which obviously Noble is leveraging. So the fact that you have all of these like little building blocks that are pretty much out of the box already extremely efficient and easy to use is maybe something we don't talk about enough. So from a developer experience, it's relatively easy. But I would say actually IBC is probably the thing that really gets developers excited and motivated. The fact that you have all of these applications on top of IBC, the fact that, of course, you could do token transfers, but you could also do things like queries, and you could do different types of applications on top of IBC, things like a solo machine, and I mean, there's like 20 different standards, is very inspiring for developers that can all of a sudden kind of fit IBC to their use case pretty easily.
Yeah, and I guess like about like what you're saying, something that is very strong is you have like different chain. They are not like using the same language. You can have JavaScript with Algoric, for example. You will have like basic Rust if you want to use like CosWasm, like a smart contract. You can even like make like Solidity, like using like some EVM, like Evmos or whatever. So generally, you have like a lot of like different language, and I guess it's like more open like to people. If you want to build on Ethereum, just learn Solidity, and you don't have like much way to just like build something. So pretty more open to builders.
Yeah, no, anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I'm just going back to the question, does Cosmos have an identity problem? I mean, maybe it's because of this abundance of choice and freedom of choice that it's really hard to create an identity for your project because, like you said, you can be a Java developer, you can be a Go developer, a Rust developer. So all of a sudden, what's the thing that unites all of them? Sometimes it's kind of hard to kind of make that cohesive and have an identity that unites the entire ecosystem, which actually maybe is not a bad thing. Maybe it's better to have this plurality of identities.
Yeah, no, that's great, amazing. And then, so carrying on from this conversation, I think question 3 leads perfectly into it, which is what's needed to bring more builders and adoption into the ecosystem?
I think the stage, in my opinion, of building infrastructure is definitely well on. And the same way you build a city and you want to make sure transportation is great for your city to strive. We have obviously a lot of bridges around us, but what I would love to see is more projects thinking on how to bring tooling to bring more users and not thinking of building the foundations and building the infrastructure, but like thinking of how do we bring more bridges, more pieces of software to maybe bring people in, making sure there is code available for applications to kind of help them to acquire users and land users more easily. So it's a lot of user experience, it's a lot maybe of affiliate modules, so that whoever builds within the Cosmos ecosystem will come with possibly part of an updated SDK, having an affiliate system to really help all these infrastructure players and new dApps to really acquire new users. I think the space overall has been shy on really thinking not only about infrastructure, but thinking how do we set our newcomers, new developers, new apps, new dApps being successful by giving them the tools to acquire users much faster. A little bit like the early internet when Web 2's applications were not really ready to kind of scale customer acquisition, and I think this can be a really strong and impactful contribution to our space, is to get tooling and kind of also shift of mindset in a way. So we just think, okay, how do we make those guys successful in a more long-term way?
Yeah, no, you're right. I think because from a user perspective, it can be still quite challenging navigating the space. I think it's one of them where if you know how to use the space, then you're fine within it. But if you're someone new coming into the space, it can be scary and things like that. But do you guys have anything that you want to add to?
Yeah, I'll take a slightly different approach. If you go to an Ethereum conference and talk about Cosmos to, Ethereum people, they will say how Cosmos has the best developers and the best technology, and it's a great stack, and it's like some of the smartest people they know. But from a business perspective or from like a go-to-market perspective, they don't really know who to talk to. So actually, I think that having more people like this join our ecosystem that are, can talk to maybe larger institutions, can talk to maybe more of a mainstream audience. To be honest, like what Consensus did in the early days for Ethereum, to have that in Cosmos would be pretty amazing. And you don't need one organization to necessarily do that. You can have that function be split across many different projects, including DYDX. Definitely something that Noble is focused on. Osmosis does a good job of doing this as well. And so really making sure that there is this go-to-market business focus that's very strategic in nature, because the technology, I think, works and is here. And, we have DYDX obviously coming to Cosmos, and we're very excited about that. So how do we celebrate that and, make sure that more kind of business audience understands why that happened, how that's happening, and what that means for crypto more generally. So.
And I think we are kind of very early. It's been only few years that IBC is connected. There is the version that started 2 years, 2.5. Okay, yeah. So quite not a lot. So it's pretty young. People are still okay, should I make a Cosmos chain? What's infrastructure or tool I should use? So there is good tools actually that are building. Cosmology is one. There is some infrastructure, let's say Lava, building the RPC for everyone. There is good thing, but the thing is, it's pretty new. They are not even live, so they are only in testnet. So imagine for someone that just for example in Ethereum ecosystem, for them, we are lacking liquidity because we are young. We are lacking probably tools. We are lacking infrastructure. So I guess like everyone does like build like quite fast because the framework is more easier, and people should just like come and get part like of the party. we are here like it's pretty young, but we are making like just look at around you. There is like a lot of builders, and it's going very fast. Like in a year, we went almost to 100 like chains, so it's going very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And actually, I wanted to touch on something that you just mentioned, which obviously wasn't in anything that we've spoke about, but with marketing. Is marketing another problem that we have within Cosmos? Is it something that we need to collaborate more with other projects so that we can actually draw more people in as a collective?
Oh God, how long do you have?
Yeah,
14 minutes and 35 seconds.
There
okay. I mean, we're not going to obviously talk about this problem for the next 14 minutes and 30 seconds, but this issue of marketing and how we tell the story of like what Cosmos is something that has definitely been very challenging. It goes back to our identity problem, the fact that you have 55 plus Cosmos chains that all have their own perspective of what Cosmos means, how Cosmos works. They have their own language, they have their own terminology, which is both a strength and a challenge. And so I think that from my perspective, it's really important to align on the basics and like align on certain fundamental truths about what Cosmos is. I mean, the fact that we don't even have one name for the Cosmos Hub. A lot of people call it Cosmos. Some people call it the Atom chain. Others call it the Cosmos Hub chain. There's like 3-4 different terms for even how you refer to one entity, which is obviously challenging. I think if we can like align on those fundamentals that have a lot of disagreements, then I think we will be one step forward to having maybe a more cohesive narrative. But I mean, at the same time, for something like the Cosmos Hub, that's important. But maybe for DYDX, that's really not important at all, because why would you necessarily care what the Cosmos Hub refers itself to? At least if you know how it works, and if you know that the Atom token is what governs it, maybe that's enough. And so I think it depends kind of who you're talking to and who your audience is. And that's where the problems lie. I mean, I think a few weeks ago, Antonio was tweeting, we don't even want to be referred to as a Cosmos project necessarily. It's not because we don't like Cosmos. It's not because we don't use Cosmos technology. Of course, that's very well known, and that's all open source. And you can look at the code yourself. But from a marketing perspective, they just want to be a good project. So I'm actually very curious to get your perspective on this. From a marketing perspective?
DYDX has a culture of really kind of reverse engineering everything from the user. It's kind of an open door we are knocking at, but this has been kind of the North Star for the team for a long time. And on the new version of DYDX built on Cosmos, users will be able to come with their MetaMask wallet, with their Cosmos native wallet, with their ledgers, with Wallet Connect, with whatever it is. So we kind of do the abstractions, taking the assumption that users don't really want to know all the details below. So some part of the audience are developers. They want to know exactly how the kind of backend works and how it's kind of performing. Some other subset of the users of DYDX are just coming for the application. So I think we should also kind of adapt the language and making sure we've got like different kind of user journeys within the Cosmos ecosystem. I feel there is clarity on how do you enter the Cosmos ecosystem as a developer or as an entrepreneur. We should maybe think and kind of work as good citizens of the Cosmos ecosystem on defining the user journey for a user, and maybe the user don't really want to know what's happening in the kitchen. They just want to enjoy just high performance applications with high connectivity and ease of use. So yeah, I think we should look at subsets of audiences and define user journeys, and that's probably something we should do as an ecosystem within Cosmos, and not being shy that we don't have to disclose all the details. Some people don't really care. It comes back to the analogy of a city, making sure that if the people wants to come to your city by train, you've got enough trains and covering enough kind of cities around, so you can become a hub. Same for plane, trains, cars. If people want to sail to the city, just making sure as many doors are open, and if you enter the city as a user, you've got like a clear path and everything is laid on. I feel we've been targeting developers for a long time, and it's time to kind of open the kind of playbook for other subsets of users.
Yeah, and just to finish about like the marketing part, I guess it's all about like we are having like something. It's the first time there is something like decentralized as Cosmos right now, and the thing is, I guess it's all about like the culture, and there is like so many different culture. Like if you see, there is like some wizard, there is like some people wearing like bear mask or chihuahua mask. Like there is like many different cultures. So I guess like it's pretty hard. Like we are just like defining it. We are trying like probably to see like which identity we should have. Everyone is like trying to do them at their level, but at the global level, it's pretty hard because we don't even know how to make it. It's pretty difficult. Like imagine a project which is like very centralized. Even for them, I guess like they kind of like struggle to realize like who they are, like which cultures they should like provide to everyone, which identity they had, and we are just like here with like 100 chain and just like struggling to say like, well, what should we use as a marketing? And probably I just like think we should just like build like all chains and just see at the end.
No, that's great. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think like you say, because we've got 9 minutes left, I'm going to get on with the last question for the panel, which is, so is IBC the standout narrative for what Cosmos is trying to achieve, or is building on the SDK stack, sovereignty and scalability, you know, yeah, which one is drawing the people in?
Well,
or is it both? Sorry.
I don't know. Maybe to Charles's points, it's neither. Maybe we shouldn't be focusing on, you know, is it the SDK or is it IBC or is it Tendermint? Maybe it should be more about the philosophy of what Cosmos represents, which is, again, more of this self-organizing, highly decentralized, highly sovereign ecosystem of, you know, entities and chains and developers and entrepreneurs that all kind of come together, you know, to your point, and just experiment with culture, experiment with applications, you know, experiment, you know, with technology in a way that makes them excited, and maybe we'll see kind of what comes from that. You know, is you know, Cosmos more about DeFi? Is it more about bad kids? Is it more about, you know, attracting, you know, the highly successful, highly kind of scalable Ethereum applications like DYDX? Let's see. You know, I think that focusing on is Cosmos IBC or is it really more about the SDK maybe misses the forest for the trees a little bit.
In my opinion, the shared security also kind of upcoming feature within the space of Cosmos is something really strong. I think it gives an opportunity for upcoming projects, upcoming chains, smaller size chain to rely on each other, and that's something which is not available necessarily elsewhere in some other ecosystem. So trying to keep iterating on the kind of marketing for the Cosmos space and telling them, yes, you can be interconnected. That's a great feature. And also, if you come as young and upcoming, there will be some, by design, possibilities for you to remain safe and to kind of share security with others. In my opinion, that's a very strong upcoming feature for the space. And if it's done right, it's going to enable a lot of new projects and just scale everything.
Yeah, I guess you're right. And basically, it's all about like testing, experimenting. Like, as you say, like we are just like at the genesis of everything. Like we did at IBC like 2 years ago, we are trying to make it like a standard to the whole ecosystem and even outside the ecosystem, because there is like, for example, like Picasso with like Composable that did make like the first IBC transfer from Polkadot to Cosmos using Chihuahua chain. Whoop. And it's all about like this. We are experimenting, and I guess we cannot say like which one gonna just like lead us to where we should go. We just like build, I guess, standardization on almost everything. There is like, as you say, replicate security. There is like another model with mesh security. So it's all about like experimenting, but at the end, we will see like which one we're gonna like take the lead. And you cannot, like, I guess in advance we are not an oracle. We can just like build things and see like, okay, if there is like adoption from it, probably this is the way we should just like go straight forward. And probably at this time we're gonna solve like the identity problem if everyone just like use the same standard and go forward with it. But let's see, like we do have like now 2 consumer chains, like for the replicate security, for example, and we don't even know if it's gonna work. So. Yeah. Let's see.
I mean, Noble is at the forefront of replicated security. We're going to be sharing security with the Atom Validator set, and
will you?
We will, absolutely. See, this is how challenging marketing is in Cosmos. Some people know, some people don't know. And I think that's fine. It's by design, and you know, it's an experimentation phase. It's a bootstrapping phase, and you know, to be able to share security with a $4 billion chain with 175 validators all over the world, it's kind of amazing that you can just out of the box leverage a community so efficiently. So you know, I think to both Adrien and Charles's point, that's a really strong feature of the Cosmos ecosystem. Just you know, being a smaller project and being able to succeed, you know, with something like shared security, even though you haven't raised a token, you know, raised money for a token, you haven't, you know, gotten those validators on board. It's kind of a very privileged position to be in, to be honest.
And maybe they need to come back to the title of the panel. For me, seeing an identity crisis, if there is one going on within Cosmos, is a very positive signal. If you look at the history of blockchains in our industry, Bitcoin got also a lot of drama. Ethereum has not been a rosy journey. There was up and down. There was a leadership crisis, and people kind of reset the whole protocol and the whole things all along the way. So it's just kind of strengthened the ecosystem. So seeing Cosmos having a little bit of question marks on many different questions, for me is a very strong signal that things essentially will kind of consolidate, and there is more decentralization. We don't have to follow one leader or one thing. So it comes a little bit more messy, but eventually it's a strong signal that this is there is an upcoming very strong foundation, and it's going to be long-lasting. So I'm very comfortable with the crisis. I want everyone to navigate this as smoothly and quickly as possible, but that's a strong signal of something solid coming up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's a strong signal because people actually care. If nobody cared, nobody would be here. We wouldn't be in Paris. There wouldn't be 5 Cosmos events alongside EthCC that with, you know, probably more than 1,000 people in total. You know, probably even more than 2,000 people in total joining those events. So, I mean, obviously these are strong signals because yeah, people care. They care.
And yeah, probably to just like answer the question, like as we still have like few minutes. I guess like probably bad kids is literally like their answer. Like it's just generally we just look at Twitter. There is only bad kids. Like I guess like builders understand that if you have a bad kids, you're part of like the community. And probably there was just like a need of an NFT. I guess probably like this simple, because I guess there is like some phases, and we are like at the phases that we want to build. And builders just like buy a bad kid. So we know each other. We say, oh, this is the bad kid. Oh, it's building on top of Cosmos. So you just know directly that the guy is using Cosmos to build.
No, yeah, that's great. I think we can call it a day there. I think you've answered everything amazingly, unless you want to add something else.
One more thing. So we did a poll. Does Cosmos have an identity problem? Let's just quickly do it once more for the people that were maybe listening. So raise your hand. Does Cosmos have an identity problem? Okay. So yeah, but actually less. And if no...
We're progressing.
Yeah, we're progressing. And if you don't think Cosmos has an identity problem, maybe raise your hand. Okay, see, we have more people on the other side. So I think, you know, that's progress.
No, and that's great. And I think all we can do is just keep educating people and teaching them how to use the space and things like that. So if everyone can give my panel a round of applause, it's been an honor and a pleasure having you on.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
And yeah, I look forward to doing it maybe again in the future.
Thank you, too.
Thank you.